introduce themselves, starting with UCHD Advisors, but her name is Shabana. So Shabana, I will start with you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shabana Shaheen. I'm the Sustainability and Engagement Coordinator at Maggie Walker.
And we can pass it to Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Munyon. I am the Home Purchasing Coordinator at Maggie Walker. So excited to have you all on the call tonight. And I will hand it over to Sophie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sophie Schechtman, and I am the Applications Coordinator for Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. And so I will be working with y'all through the application process, and also really happy that y'all are here tonight.
And Maeve, would you care to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Maeve Edwards, and I'm currently serving as the AmeriCorps Vista at Maggie Walker.
Thank you, Maeve. And I also want to introduce our realtor, Jen Cox. Jen.
Jen, you're on mute.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Jen Cox, the realtor and exclusive listing agent for the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust, and I will be assisting you with purchasing your home.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. And if we have any lenders on our call, please come off of mute and introduce yourselves as well.
Good evening. This is Mary White with Town Bank Mortgage, and I have worked with Maggie Walker since they started. And this is a great program and great group of folks to be working with. So congratulations for everybody that is on this informational session.
Good evening, everybody. This is Tanya Irizarry with Virginia Credit Union. I am also a mortgage loan officer associated with the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. And I'm super excited for you guys to be a part of this organization and this presentation tonight, and glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Okay, everyone. So we are going to have a couple of housekeeping rules. You will see the information for our realtor, as well as a few of the lenders that have, the two lenders that have introduced themselves tonight. Their contact information will be in the chat. Also, you'll get our contact information as well. We'll put our email addresses in the chat for you as well. I am sharing that now because if you have any personal questions, as this is aired, and it will be on YouTube if you want to review it again, it's important that you keep all personal information separate from this session. Again, I will make sure that my contact information is in the chat so you can reach out to me directly if you have any questions that are personal in nature. Sounds good? All right, well, let's move forward tonight. So here's what we will talk about tonight. We've done introductions. We'll explain a little bit more about what a community land trust is. CLT stands for Community Land Trust. We'll talk about the eligibility process and the benefits of home ownership through a CLT. We'll also talk about the ground lease, which is what makes this program different than others. And then we'll talk about how to apply if you're interested now or later, or if you know someone that may be interested. We'll talk about the application process as well. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit more about who's in the room and how you found out about the program. You should have a question that popped up for you. So please take a moment to utilize this time to answer the question. This just helps us know who's in the room. Also, you can utilize the chat if that did not pop up for you. But tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found out about the program. And again, please make sure your phone is on mute. Thank you. Okay, how are those results looking?
We've got about 70% of people that have responded, so I can go ahead and close it.
Okay,
And then we can just share the results, kind of get a sense of who's here with us.
sounds good.
So it looks like about 74% of folks on with us tonight are interested in purchasing a home. 15% are real estate agents. 15% are interested citizens wanting to learn more. 11% are folks who are involved in the affordable housing work, and then 4% of folks chose other. So we've got a good group of folks in here tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Shabana. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what the program is and what it is and what it isn't. And again, we'll go into that a little bit more as the presentation goes forward. But this is an alternate route to home ownership. And what do I mean by that? I mean, because of the model, which someone purchases what we refer to as the improvements, which is the house, and the land in and of itself stays with the community land trust, this is an alternate route that may not be for everyone. This process or this route to home ownership is one of reciprocity, which means the program is pulling you into home ownership, and you in turn, if you decide to sell, you're going to pull somebody else in. You're going to provide an opportunity for someone else who is a qualified buyer. So that's what makes the program unique. Those homes or our homes also have permanent subsidy that stays with the home or the land in and of itself as well, so that those numbers can be as low as we can make them. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit more about our namesake, Maggie Lena Walker. If you're from Richmond, I'm sure you've heard of her before. She started the Penny Savings Bank, which was then changed to Consolidated Bank and Trust. There were several branches. One branch or the building is still downtown on 2nd Street. And so she was very instrumental in changing the environment and the climate of not only home ownership, but entrepreneurship and wealth in the Black community here in Richmond. She was the first Black woman to serve as president of the bank in the United States, actually. And she believed in providing opportunity. She believed in creating seats at the table for people who would not otherwise have a position to do so or to make impact. And so we do this work in her honor. And it's our pleasure to do the work in her honor. I also want to mention with Magdalena Walker that one of the things that was important to her was generational wealth building. So that is also something that we focus on, but are trying to do more work in creating wealth building opportunities in the community. Next slide, please. So Community Land Trust. Chime in the chat if you've even heard of Community Land Trust before, but it is nothing new. It is a product of the civil rights movement, and they were created when registered voters who were also sharecroppers were found to be registered as a voter, and they were literally kicked off of their land. Okay, and so not only those homeowners, but people in the community that believe that people should have a right to home ownership came together, and land came together, put their support together, and created the first community land trust, which was New Communities Incorporated. Now, it was based initially on farmland, but it moved on to not only home ownership, but even business opportunities as well through a community land trust. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit more about what makes home ownership something that may bring anxiety or excitement. So what about home ownership makes you excited or nervous? And feel free to utilize the chat or to come off of mute to answer that question. What makes you excited or nervous about home ownership? The repairs. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Generational wealth. Okay. Okay. Want to have your own, but nervous about the liability. Absolutely. No yearly increase. Now that may change. I won't say that may change. Yearly increase, Shaquila, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, may happen with taxes. Okay. But to your point, in terms of your mortgage in particular, at least through our program, that part stays still. Excited, having space to call your own. First homeowner in the family. Awesome, Shanae. There are programs to support first generation homeowners as well. Thank you all for sharing that. Next slide, please. Okay, so what you have in front of you is a map of where we are currently. So we have homes in Richmond, Chesterfield, and Henrico. Some of you may know to the bottom right, you see Ettrick, which is right on the side. I'm sorry, not side. Right on the line of Chesterfield and Petersburg. It is considered Chesterfield County, but it's right on the line, not too far from Virginia State University. That is our first subdivision that we are elated about. And that property or that subdivision is almost sold out. So we're excited about that. We do have some projects coming up, which you may have heard of in Henrico. And so again, these are our areas for right now. We're all throughout Richmond and vicinity. Next slide, please. Okay, so Community Land Trust, again, you're going to hear Community Land Trust and CLT throughout the presentation, but we are a nonprofit organization. We are here to create permanent, affordable opportunities through homeownership. What does that mean? It means that because we put subsidy into the homes, we are able to keep our numbers low. Now, affordability varies depending on who you're talking to, right? But this product or this way of doing things keeps a home in perpetuity for 99 years, okay? And the CLT model reduces the cost of home ownership now in an effort to keep the numbers low even for future home buyers. So let's just say you decide to pass your home down. The idea of this concept is that everyone gets a chance at home ownership because of the numbers that we're able to provide. Next slide, please. So we talked a little bit about the process, but I want to give you a snapshot as well of what it looks like. So the first step, and this is in terms of after someone has decided they want to be a part of the program, which we'll talk about that to come. But the first step is a family purchases the home that sits on the land. That's referred to as the improvements. Again, that home, they purchase the improvements or the home, and the CLT continues to own the land, okay? The next step is the home is affordable because prospective buyers are purchasing the home and not the land. And then homeowners are leasing the land under a renewable ground lease. And then the homeowners, if they choose to do so, resell with limited equity. Again, that's that act of reciprocity, program pulling you in, and then you in turn pull someone else into the program if you choose to sell, which you do not have to. Next slide, please. Okay, what makes it unique? So there are a few things here that must be noted. First, this must be your primary residence. So the owner must reside in this house for the majority of the year. They cannot rent it out. They can have a renter with them in the house, but they cannot rent the house out. The house cannot be used for Airbnb either. And one of the reasons for that is if, someone is able to use another home as their primary residence, then, this program is set up as an affordable home ownership opportunity. So we don't want to, what's the word I'm looking for? We don't want, that is not something that we negotiate. Renovations must be approved. So any major renovations, something like making an addition or knocking a wall out, anything that requires a permit, you must let us know, and that must be approved. And the main reason for that is because of the legacy. Again, thinking about Maggie Lena Walker, the legacy that's attached to the homes. We want to make sure that any improvements are done in a way that makes it safe and livable for someone that comes behind you. Okay. Now, when I say renovations, again, it's anything that needs a permit. If you want to paint, if you want to change a light fixture, anything of that nature that does not require a permit, we want to know, but you're free to do that. That does not require board approval. Okay, so you will build equity. You will earn all of the equity from the mortgage payment. So making your payments on time builds equity, plus the increase in value of your home you will earn, and that is determined by the increase in area median income. You'll see an acronym for that, AMI, which we'll talk about to come, but that is based on the increase in area median income. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I mentioned the ground lease, which is the unique thing that makes the program different from other affordable housing programs. It is also that legacy piece. So again, someone's purchasing the home or the improvements, they're leasing the land. That land lease is for 99 years. It is $100 a month or $100 a year, my apologies, or $25 quarterly. So again, the home is fully inheritable. You can pass down the home to your heirs. They do not have to complete the same income qualifications. So if something were to happen to you, you could pass that home down to your heirs. Also, I want to note here that if we purchase through us, one of the services that we provide is will formation through one of our pro bono lawyers. So you are able to get a will done. You're able to do an advance directive, which speaks to how you want your wellness taken care of if you could not speak for yourself, and a power of attorney. So those are things that we provide free of charge to anyone that wants to become a part of the program and purchases through us. And again, you're acquiring this big asset, and so we don't want that to end up in probate. Having everything in place, and this is whether you purchase through us or not, you want to make those decisions before something happens, and that's a service that we provide. Next slide. Okay, so as mentioned, we are a nonprofit organization. All nonprofit organizations are governed by a board. This is the breakdown of our board. We have 1/3 community members, 1/3 current homeowners, and then 1/3 public members. So some of the community members and public members are people that are also in the affordable housing sector. But we encourage homeowners to continue to become a part of the board when those seats become available as well. That is our board governance. Next slide, please. Okay, program eligibility. So the first thing is you must be income qualified, and we'll get into those numbers a little bit later, but you must be income qualified. You must agree to the terms of the ground lease. Again, the big gist of that ground lease is that it's 99 years. The ground lease is $100 a year. And as I mentioned before, what I mentioned about the renovations, right? If you want to renovate and it requires a permit, you have to let us know. Also that this has to be your primary residence. So there may be a situation where someone is in the military. Those are things we need to know, and we're willing to work with that, but this must be your primary residence. You must be approved for a pre-approval. I know that says pre-qualification, but it's pre-approval for a minimum of $150,000 from one of our approved lenders. There is a list of our lenders on our website. Again, 2 are here tonight. Their information is in the chat. Mary White from Town Bank and Tanya Irizarry from Virginia Credit Union. Okay, and you cannot own another home at the time of closing. Again, this is affordable housing opportunity. And so you cannot own another home at the time of closing. Next slide, please. So we talked about income. Go back one. Thank you. We talked about income qualification and program eligibility. It is based on these numbers. These numbers are from HUD, so we do not set these numbers. Any other affordable housing program abides by these numbers. That's inclusive of Habitat for Humanity, as well as Project Homes. So most of our homes are in the 80% AMI. Again, AMI stands for Area Median Income. These numbers support or are based on Richmond and vicinity. So if you're a one-person household, you cannot make more than $61,800 if you're in our 80% AMI program. We do have a 115% AMI program, which to date, we have not had a lot of homes in that program, but it does exist. If you are a one-person household, you cannot make more than $88,800. And so you see the chart there in terms of what the numbers look like contingent upon how many people are in your household, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so we'll take a break for questions, but Jen, can you speak to this house?
Yes, thank you, Candace. This newly built property is located in Midlothian, Virginia. It features 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, and it's 1,400 square feet. This property has a downstairs primary bedroom, along with the features that you can see from the photos. It's hardwood flooring throughout. We have an island in the kitchen, has an open floor plan concept, and has an amazing back porch. It also has a front porch. This property is built in partnership with Project Homes, and the land came from the Richmond Land Bank. And as Candace mentioned earlier, this is one of the properties that falls within the 80% Richmond area median income.
Thank you, Jen. And you'll see a few other homes throughout this presentation, but I do also recommend going to our website and you'll see homes that have sold in the past if you want to get an idea of our homes. So at this time, if there are any questions, feel free to utilize the chat or come off of mute to ask your question. I see one. The question is, how much did this sell for? It sold for $190,000. I believe, was that last year or 2 years ago, Jen?
2 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the most important piece is the price. So yes, it sold for $190,000, but I do want to call out that this property in the open market appraised for $327,000, which means the Community Land Trust was able to inject $137,000 in subsidy to make this property affordable through our program.
Okay, thank you, Jan. So I'll answer some of the questions that are in the chat. Does the site show any available homes or just sold homes? It only at this time shows sold homes, and here's why. We'll get into this, but I'll answer the question now and reiterate it further on in the session. Our homes are presented to the applicant pool first. When I say applicant pool, I mean people that submit an application their income is verified and they're a part of the program, okay? So homes are sent out via email when they're available to participants in the applicant pool first. So 9 times out of 10, you may never see our homes because they go to someone in the applicant pool. We do put homes on MLS, but only if they do not meet the needs of people in our applicant pool. Okay, so you may find homes online. And actually, Jen, do you mind putting in the chat, if you can, the property that we do have on MLS now on St. James?
Of course.
Thank you. So we do have a property on St. James Street in historic Jackson Ward that is available right now. But outside of that, that does not happen that often. That we put homes on MLS. That only happens if the home no longer meets the needs of someone in our applicant pool, right? So I hope that answered your question. I see another question. Are we able to purchase land only? No, this program is we keep the land in ground lease, and that person purchases the improvements or the home. Is there a certain amount of years you have to live in the home before you can sell? So you cannot rent the home. That is one of the requirements in the program. The home, you cannot rent the home at all. That's against the ground lease. But no, there is not a certain amount of time that you have to stay in the house before you sell. Now, there are some contingencies with that, not on our side. But if you're using down payment assistance through organizations like Housing Opportunities May Equal Home, or Southside Development Center, or some other entities that provide down payment assistance, they may have a stipulation that you have to own the home for a certain amount of time for the money that they give you in down payment assistance to be a grant and not a loan. Okay, so we don't have any stipulations on that, but there may be some attached to any down payment assistance that you get. Also, remember, the longer you're in the home, the more equity you build. Okay. And I'll take, let's see, a couple more, and then we'll move forward, and I'll catch those on the next part. You have a rough estimate of the breakdown between 80% and 115 AMI homes in the program. So if you're looking at which homes are, and I'm hoping I'm reading your question correctly, which homes are in the 80% or the 115, it is safe to say that most of the homes that are online are in the 80% program. In the last 2 years, we've only had one home that sold in the 115 program. So it's safe to say that all of the homes that you see on our website are in the 80% program. What would be the process? I would need a little bit more information, and this is to the realtor. This person, I'm hearing that you're saying that they already qualified. What will be the process from here if they've identified a property? It's contingent upon, did they not get the property? Is this a property that hasn't been built yet? I would need more detail, Holly, and I will give you my email address to speak with me directly about that. Do people on SSA income qualify? They do, or they have, I will say that. That is something that we need to run the numbers on. Also keep in mind that some of our partnering agencies, like Home Housing Opportunities May Equal, may have a minimum of annual income before they even give DPA. Okay, so yes, however, it also still depends on what the income is. We're less concerned about where the income comes from and more concerned about the ability to maintain, all right? Keeping in mind also that, as I mentioned earlier, numbers may change. The mortgage number will not change, but the amount you pay per month may change because of taxes. Okay. And I will hold on to the rest of the questions for our next Q&A. So hold tight. Okay, let's go on, please. Next slide. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about how the program works. And Elizabeth, do you mind doing this part of our presentation?
Of course. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Elizabeth Munyon. I'm going to walk us through, I know there's a question about limited equity that will be covered in this section, and how our pricing works, and more information about how we subsidize the properties to be permanently affordable. And this is a real world example of a home in our land trust. This home is in the Randolph neighborhood in Richmond. For those of you familiar with that neighborhood, it's really, the property values are increasing rapidly. So this home, when we did an appraisal on the home, appraised for $340,000. And we were able to sell it to an eligible buyer by removing the cost of the land, which was valued at $90,000. And we also added additional subsidies from grants and fundraising to lower the sales price for the buyer. So the buyer of this property purchased it for $180,000. So that resulted in them borrowing less money from their lender, from the bank. They also had lower monthly payments and a lower down payment than they would have if they had purchased on the market. So now I'm going to briefly go into how your mortgage payment works. So every month you will pay your mortgage, and there are two components of that, your principal and the interest. So the big blue box that represents how much you're paying in interest at the beginning of the life of your mortgage. At the beginning of your home purchasing journey, the majority of your monthly payment is going to go into interest, with only about a quarter going into principal. But the longer you are in your house, those two switch, and the less is in interest, and most of your money is going into principal. And another part of your monthly payment is your escrow. And so your escrow account, that's represented in this green box here, that represents the insurance and the taxes that your bank will pay on your behalf. Those are two hefty sums that are divided into, whoops, did that just disappear? It says that the host is allowing multiple presenters.
Let me
Sorry.
double check. Sorry.
Technical difficulties.
No worries, technical
It
difficulties, y'all
says
bear with
sharing
us.
is not turned on.
Go ahead and reshare now. Sorry about that.
Okay. There we go. Yes, so sorry about that. Just to recap, part of your monthly payment, in addition to your loan, is also your escrow, which is the portion of your insurance and your taxes. So your bank will pay the insurance company as well as the locality where your taxes are owed. So now I'm going to talk a bit about taxes and another benefit to our program, which is that you are responsible for only the taxes on your house, but not the land. So since Maggie Walker is the land trust, our land is tax exempt. So you will not be paying taxes on the value of the land. So that will result in more affordable tax payments. In addition to that, there is also state legislation that says you can only be taxed on what you can sell your home for. So according to the ground lease, which I'll get into in a bit, because we restrict the sales price for the next buyer, you won't be taxed, hopefully, on the market value of your home. So this is another feature for affordability when there is a really high real estate market. This is another method that we use to preserve affordability for you and for future buyers. So you are responsible as a homeowner for any upkeep of your home. We empower our homeowners to make the necessary repairs and routine maintenance that any homeowner would make. We have resources if you need assistance getting a plumber or something, a contact for work. We're happy to put you in the right direction, but as a homeowner, you are responsible for any upkeep of your home. So anything like a leaky roof, a broken appliance, we're not a property manager. It is your responsibility as a homeowner to take care of anything related to the upkeep of your home. In addition, you are also responsible for the land itself. So you are responsible for mowing the lawn or for finding someone to take care of your lawn, as well as any dead trees. You are responsible for you're permitted to do anything in your yard that you would within your local jurisdiction. So gardens, a lot of times people ask about having chickens, anything like that that's allowed with your locality is permitted. You do have to check in with the locality for anything like a shed or like anything on a permanent foundation that would need a building permit. So those are the responsibilities and permissions of what you can do on the land itself. Okay, I'm going to hand this over to Jen. We're going to answer a few more questions in the chat, some of the ones we didn't get to last time. But first, I will pass this to Jen to tell us about this home in Blackwell.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So this beautiful two-story home situated on a corner lot listed in the Blackwell community. The list price for this property was $180,000. It appraised in the open market for $330,000, and the CLT was able to inject at least $150,000 worth of subsidy to make this home affordable. Some of the features of this property is 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, hardwood flooring throughout, stainless steel appliances. Our properties also include washer and dryer that comes with the property. Our standard is hardwood flooring throughout. As you can see, there's granite countertops. This property is 1,400 square feet, and the land came to us through the Richmond Land Bank, and is available to households that was earning 80% of the Richmond annual median income.
Thanks, Jen. And just to clarify, this home sold 2 years ago. So
Yes.
this is not available now, but this home was very popular. One of our favorites.
Yes.
Let's see. Seeing in the chat, there's some questions about specific projects.
And I actually put a link, Elizabeth,
Okay.
I put a link in the chat about the Henrico project. That link is from our website. It's just an interest link, but you are also free to go to the link of the builder, which is H Hunt. So 3 H's, Hunt. And we don't have any information about dates or anything like that. It's too early in the process. But we do encourage you to, we didn't receive your interest link, Nicole. So my email is in the chat. Just reach out to me if you don't mind.
Yes, I believe we will be reaching out to folks once we have more updates. The homes have not even been, the land isn't even being built yet, but we will be following up with folks in the near future about those properties.
There's also a question about a wait list. So let me address that. So technically, no. We do not have a wait list. We don't order people right now in terms of when they signed up. And we're working on a new process since there are so many properties coming up and so many projects that we have. But right now, no, Ms. Hartsfield, we do not have a wait list. We have an applicant pool.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in detail, how our applicant pool works and how our prioritization policy goes into that.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One was about the home that's on the screen right now. Jen stated that it's standard to be hardwood floor throughout. If we were able to get one of the homes, would we be able to put carpet in there?
Yes.
I think yes, we one of the reasons that we don't use carpet, or we haven't in the past, is that we are considering the future buyer and we want our our homes to last for a very long time and be very high quality. And typically, carpet isn't as high of a quality as hardwood. So that is the reason why we use hardwood. But when you are the homeowner, you are free to alter that if that's something you choose to do.
Okay. And my second question is the homes in Henrico, are they the homes that they're building over by the new Taylor Farms Park?
Yes. So those are we have a few projects in Henrico, but on our website, if one of my colleagues can link that, that would be amazing. It's called Parkside Towns. It is right beside the park.
It's in the chat already.
Oh, it is. Okay. So that's one of the projects. And then we have our Varina New Market subdivision as well that are currently under construction and more in the pipeline.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then there's a question about private mortgage insurance, and I'm going to defer that to Tanya or Mary to talk about some of the details of PMI with the loan.
This is Tanya from Virginia Credit Union. Typically, the loans that are done through Virginia Credit Union do not require private mortgage insurance.
And this is Mary with Town Bank Mortgage. And typically also with us, the way we structure these loan programs, you don't have to pay mortgage insurance, which is one of the great advantages of this program.
Yes, thank you both. I am going to move on just in the interest of time, but please continue to put your questions in the chat and one of my colleagues will answer, or we can answer at the next question opportunity. So I'm going to go into the resale process right now. So what happens if and when you decide to sell your home? Like Candace mentioned earlier, you are not required at all to sell your home. This may be your forever home that you are also entitled to pass to heirs after you pass. But in the event that you do wish to sell your home, this is how that process works. So the land again remains in trust and only the building will be sold, and it will be sold to an income qualified buyer. So just like you had to income qualify for the program, the next buyer also has to meet income requirements. So when you go to sell your home, you are entitled to get back your home's increase in value. And again, that is based on the increase in the area median income over the time you have been in your home. You are also entitled to get back your cash equity. So any down payment that was put in at the beginning of your transaction. And you are also entitled to get back any earned equity. So again, that's any loan principal that has been paid by making your monthly mortgage payments. So the resale formula, this is a way for homeowners to get a return on their investment while ensuring that the home retains long-term affordability for the future buyer. So the way that this works is that we look at the original area median income when you purchased and subtract that from the most recently published AMI. And again, that number is set by HUD and it comes out annually in April around. So we subtract the original from the current AMI, and then we divide the remainder by the original AMI to get the percent increase. And the increase in value cannot exceed 3% a year. So it will be capped at that 3% annual increase. So how this works is when you go to sell your home, we calculate the increase in the area median income over the time that you've been in the home. So in our example that we're using here, the AMI at the time of purchase was $83,000. And then when the homeowner goes to sell, the increase has gone up to $90,200, which is $7,000 or 8.41%. And so we multiply the original sales price by 8.41%, which equals $14,580. So that percent increase is the amount of equity that you will earn based on the increase in wages over the time you have been in your house. So historically, if this has not been the case and the AMI decreases, you are still able to sell your home for what you have purchased for. So that's a caveat, but it is a very unlikely situation. So when we compare this method to the traditional market, the home value is based in the traditional market on the market and fluctuation. So this can either be very good in a strong market and weak or bad in like in a slump or in a recession. So by having the value determined by the area median income, there are less volatile conditions that are more reflective of the actual income of residents in Richmond. So that's why we use that method to determine the earned equity. So in addition to your equity that is coming from the increase in value based on the area median income, again, you are also earning equity through your monthly mortgage payments. So over time that you're in your home, less of that is going into interest and more into principal. So in this example, this homeowner builds $15,000 just by paying their mortgage. So over a period of time, the money from down payment and principal, $15,500, plus the increase based on the increase in the AMI gives us a total of $30,080 in equity. So when we compare this to renting, assuming about the same monthly mortgage payment, we see that instead of spending almost $72,500 in rent that the homeowner does not get back, instead they are accruing equity through our program, which is why we like to think of this as a step into home ownership. So after a period of time, instead of paying rent that you will not get back, you have accrued $30,805 in equity. So the way that this model makes it possible to future families who may be in the same situation that you are in right now, we price our future homes based on this resale model as well. So we start at the original price of the home, and it was a lot of slides back, but in my first example, the purchase price example was $180,000. And then we tack on the increase in value based on the AMI, which is $14,580. And the price that we will sell the new home for is adding those two together. So we get $194,580. So and when we compare that number to what would be in the market, where homes are appraising for about twice the amount, we are allowing our homeowners to get equity, but also having an investment in the community where homes will be affordable in perpetuity for future buyers. So I am going to pass this on, and we have another section for questions. And if you have any questions about the application process, please hold, because we have a whole section coming up on actual logistics of applying. But I'm going to pass this over to Jen to talk about our home on Fern.
Thank you, Elizabeth. As Elizabeth mentioned, this home is located on Fern Avenue in Henrico County. This home was listed for $190,000, features 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and this home also has a first level primary bedroom with a bathroom. Hardwood flooring throughout, stainless steel appliances. This particular property has a washer and dryer that also conveyed with the sale. As you can see, it sits on a large size lot. The privacy fence was also included with the property, so the homeowners did not have to pay for that. The Maggie Walker Community Land Trust included that in the sale, and this home was built in partnership with Eagle Construction.
Thank you, Jen. Are there any participants that want to come off mute and ask a question or anything in the chat?
I believe we're pretty covered with questions in the chat. Does anyone want to come off of mute and ask a question?
Yes.
Okay.
I had put in the chat 2 questions about because you had mentioned that, so since we're required for the upkeep of the house when we're in it, if we're purchasing a house that someone had previously lived in under the trust, that sounds to me as if it is a policy that when we're getting into the house already comes with a roof that is in good condition, right? And also the next question was, if your heir, if the homeowner dies, does the heir get the equity if they don't want the house?
I did mention that. So if the heir decides to sell the house, they would go through the same process as the original purchaser. So they would get whatever the original purchaser received. In terms of any repairs needed, if you're purchasing a resold home, those repairs would be technically the requirement of the person selling the home.
Right.
So that is something that would come up in inspection. If there are any repairs that are needed for a resold home that come up in inspection, that particular homeowner is responsible for that. But most of our homes are newly built.
Okay, good. Because I think you said something before about, I don't know, something gave me the impression that someone had lived in one of the houses previously or something. So that's why I was, asking that question, because I was wondering why they would leave. So, I mean, you can always get another house. I get that, but I'm just saying, like, if somebody died, I was wondering if that was the case, or maybe the heir just didn't want the house. So that's why I was wondering if they would be responsible for paying for it. But you did answer that question. Yes.
Yeah. So just to be also transparent, we celebrated our 100th home sale. We're actually over that now, but 100 home sale in the fall or in the early winter, either late fall or early winter of last year. We are just now, I believe, on our maybe 8th resale, which means people are sticking and staying.
Good.
Okay, so in terms of people leaving, it doesn't happen too often.
Right.
People leave for a myriad of reasons, but most often they're just relocating or their family is growing. But yes, if somebody passes away and they have completed the documentation in terms of wills and trust and all of that, everything is legit that way, because you want to make sure you're leaving instructions. That's what a will is, right? Instructions upon someone's death. That person would just take on the same process that the homeowner would. They can sell, they don't have to stay.
So, and here's my last question. Are you partnering with NACA? Because I know that NACA was supposed to be partnering with RHA and other places, but it was my understanding that NACA was having an issue with helping people on Section 8 get homes, because they have to be able to pay the money directly to the homeowner, not to the holder of the voucher.
So those are two different things. NACA is not one of our approved lenders because there's a process that lenders have to go through to be approved by the state. NACA does not have that qualification.
Okay.
So it's not even so much that we wouldn't work with them, but they don't have the qualification to be able to provide a product that supports a community land trust property.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know that RHA was working to try to get vouchers for home ownership, but I know that hasn't been worked out. The kinks haven't been worked out with that yet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I have a question regarding the equity you get back when you sell the house. Would that include a down payment that comes from a down payment assistance program, or only if it's just cash you're putting in?
That really
No, it does
depends on
not.
I think it depends on the program and the grant.
Okay.
Well, and then keeping in mind, as I mentioned before, that your grant is a grant after you've stayed a certain amount of time. So I think there was a question earlier about how long do you have to stay? As I mentioned, if you stay under the amount of time that your grant is for, and they all are different. Again, this is something that if you're utilizing a program like Housing Opportunities Made Equal, you want to ask because each program has its own requirements with that. But that would be a good question for them in regards to any DPA they provide.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so for the sake of time, continue to use the chat. I will answer your questions. We'll have another break before this is over, but I definitely want to honor your time since we're ending at 7:30. So we can move on with the presentation. Go ahead.
Yes, I don't know if this is gonna be Shabana or Sophie, but you all can do it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Candace.
You sure? Because I know you're doing so many things. I don't mind. Okay, let's talk about how to apply for the program. Okay, next, please. Okay, so you want to first ask yourself if you're ready for home ownership. Like, I know the market is crazy right now, but we definitely don't want, and this is whether it's through us or anybody, we don't want anybody to step out of the fire into the furnace, right? It's a little bit harder to get out of a mortgage than it is to get out of rent. Okay, so you want to have these questions in mind for yourself. Ask yourself these questions. What % of your income can you spend on housing? Where do you feel comfortable? You may qualify for a mortgage and the lender may say, hey, here's what you qualify for, but you may not feel comfortable at that number. So you want to ask yourself, what % of your income can you spend on housing? You also want to know your credit score and your DTI. DTI stands for debt to income ratio, okay? A lender will be able to help you with this, but you can go on some of the, get your credit report, freeannualcreditreport.com, which is government supported. So get your credit score. Most of the lenders require a minimum of 640, okay? How much am I currently spending on housing and how much am I comfortable with? Maybe you're renting and a utility is included in your rent. Well, we know that that doesn't happen with the mortgage. So you really want to crunch your numbers and see what you're comfortable in spending on the mortgage note or housing specifically, but thinking about all of the things that are connected to your housing, your utilities. Are you driving from a further location and your gas may go up, right? So just thinking about what are some guidelines for you in regards to how much you want to pay there. How long have I been at my current job? That is a big one because the lenders want to see stability. They want to see that you've been on your job for a certain amount of time. They will ask for income documents. We ask for income documents. If you've never gone through the process of purchasing a home before, it is going to seem like they want you to give it all, okay? And unfortunately, that is the process. It's not unique to us. It is the same thing across the board if you want to purchase a home. So get your documents together. And remember, if you're jumping jobs, you're going to have to wait until you have a certain number of pay stubs and a certain amount of time on your job to be eligible, not just for this program, but for a mortgage product in general. How much savings do I have to have for emergencies and maintenance repairs? I can't tell you what that number is. Technically, most financial advisors say that you want to have 3 to 6 months, and I know that is very difficult for most of us, right? But you want to have some money. You will need money for not just your down payment money towards that, but you'll need money for an appraisal. You'll need money for inspection. You may have to have a re-inspection. You'll need money for that. Excuse me. You'll need earnest deposit money. And for us, that's $500, okay? Jen can speak to you a little bit more about that. Again, her information is in the chat. You also, excuse me, you also want to have conversations, and this is a big one. You want to have conversations with a realtor. Not only getting a realtor, but a lot has changed with realtor fees. They have increased significantly. Excuse me. They have increased significantly. So you want to have, can someone take over? I need some water.
Yes.
Forgive me. Thank you, Shavana.
I believe Candace was touching on there have been some changes with realtor compensation and how that works out. I believe Jen, our realtor, could better speak to that. But those are things to consider, not just if you're going through the Maggie Walker program, but anytime you're thinking about purchasing, having those things worked out beforehand about the compensation that your realtor would be getting. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. Hopefully Candace gets some water and can catch her breath.
I can go into the realtor thing really quick. I know we have some
Sure.
realtors on the call. We have Jen as our wonderful in-house realtor who represents us as the seller, but you do not need to, you are welcome to use a realtor of your choosing to represent you as a buyer. But again, please be aware of the changes in the legislation revolving around the compensation. So you are not entitled to use, you are welcome to use anyone you want to represent you as a realtor. And Jen provided her information, I think about a little bit earlier, but she is also happy to work with you and has her own fee structure that she will discuss with you if you are interested in that.
Cool. So going into the application process itself, so step one, you are taken care of right now by being on this info session. We ask folks to attend one of our info sessions to learn more about this process in depth. After that, we ask folks to apply for their mortgage pre-approval. As we mentioned earlier, there are a list of pre-approved lenders, a few of whom are on this call. We have the full list on our website, and I will drop that in the chat momentarily. We also have our application. At the moment, we're having some technical difficulties with the actual online portal. So we have the PDF available on our website. You're able to either mail or email through scanning the application to us. The application, and we'll go into this in the next few slides, has a few components that we ask for, including income documentation. And some folks in the chat have asked questions about different types of income documentation and verification. So that is part of the process as well. And so once that component is done, you are required to complete a HUD-approved home buyer education course. There are specific organizations in the area that provide those HUD-approved home buyer education courses. Usually when you complete them, you have some kind of certificate of completion that you're given. And so that is something that we ask you have as a part of that application that you submit. And then once you have gone through all these steps, you'll receive an email with confirmation that you are officially in the applicant pool. We do have a team that works really hard to get this done. It does take some time sometimes, especially with income verification, all the moving parts. But once you have filled out your application, submitted all the components, usually within a few weeks, you will hear back from someone on our team, most likely Sophie, about anything that may be needed to complete it or that you are officially in the applicant pool. So for the next slide, you can skip over the one about the online application. It's giving us a little trouble right now. But just to go in a little bit more detail about the income verification. So a few things to think about as you think about applying. So 3 months of your most recent pay stubs or benefit statements. I think Candace mentioned that if you're in a space that's transitioning between jobs, you may, want to think about that kind of timeline of 3 months of recent pay stubs that would be needed for income verification for our program. Also, 2 most recent federal tax returns and the matching W-2s and 1099s. And then 6 months of bank statements for savings, checkings, and investments. Sophie is our staff member who works on this income verification process. Sophie, is there anything that I'm missing or leaving out, or do you think we've covered it all?
Yeah, I think that's covered it all. I think as Candace already mentioned, I think gathering these documents as part of your application to Maggie Walker, these documents will also be used to apply for a mortgage pre-approval, as well as if you're interested in down payment assistance programs, they'll also require these same documents. So it's a really good idea to start gathering these documents now and keep them, saved in a folder somewhere so you have ready access to them. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to touch on at this point.
Thank you so much for that.
I did have a question about child support in the chat. So that is something that you do also want to gather. Any kind of alimony, child support goes along with benefit statements as well.
Yeah, and I'll just stress that as well. We're looking at all income sources. So, right, that includes child support, that includes if you get a Social Security benefit, SSI, a retirement benefit, and that goes for the primary applicant as well as anybody who is going to be in the house that you purchase. So if you're purchasing and your mother is also going to be in the household and she gets a retirement benefit, we'll need to see that as well, because we're looking at household income as a whole. And so, we'll just keep that in mind as well when you're submitting your application.
Great, thank you. The next slide just goes into highlighting a few funding and grant opportunities. Some folks have already mentioned in the chat, so there are down payment assistance programs. So HOME, Housing Opportunities Made Equal of Virginia, and Southside Community Development are 2 such organizations where you are able to kind of utilize down payment assistance. And as Sophie mentioned, a lot of those programs also ask for a lot of the similar income verification documents. So getting that folder started now is a pretty good idea. Some programs and down payment assistance options, they can be stacked together depending on like what you qualify for and what different things and qualifications there are. So definitely do your research about the different ways that you can utilize tools to help support your application and ultimately being a home buyer. The next slide is just going into other programs and ways that can facilitate your ultimate goal of home ownership, even if you do not choose or if Maggie Walker isn't the perfect fit. There are other organizations that do this work as well. So we encourage you to check those out. Also, I think this was brought up in the chat by a few folks as well. Hold on, let me look. I took note of it. But yeah, any type of assistance about credit scores or working through certain financial situations, some of these resources, these organizations also provide resources with that as well. And so there are options for, if you're thinking about credit score or other things, some of these organizations and Home of Virginia, I know Southside Community Development definitely has resources that you're able to utilize. There's also credit counseling So there's different ways that you can work towards that eventual goal. If you don't qualify right away when you submit your application, there are ways that we can work towards it and we can work with you. And the next slide just goes into post-purchase stewardship. So we talked a lot about the process of getting the home and then what it looks like to build equity. And another part of it is once you become a homeowner with Maggie Walker, you become part of our family. And so if there's ever anything that you are looking for advice on, looking for any kind of interest in, just questions. While we are not a property management company or organization, we are interested in the community part of our name. So we are a community land trust. And I would be your main point of contact. So once you become a homeowner, I'm the main point of contact for any questions or any feedback you have for us. So we're always here and happy to help and happy to be in conversation about your experience and, you know, anything that comes up for you as a homeowner. So that's something that we really value, and our team is very much invested in you being a part of this family with us. I think that covers everything about the application. I'm going to drop the link in the chat, and it does have some of the things I went over really quickly in detail again, including the specific income documents and application components. So.
I have a question. This is Naisha Fox. Everyone.
Yes.
Hi. I was asking a question. Like, you know, when you file your taxes, you've already paid taxes on your income and you could get a tax return. And if you have a lot of dependents, you may get earned income credit. Does that count, you know, against your does it count as income, your tax return?
I'm going to defer that
Not
to
for the
Sophie.
lenders. Not for the
Yeah.
lenders, no.
Sophie, do you know off the top of your head?
I think I missed the question.
Does like a child credit or a tax return count towards income, or is that not included?
No, that would not be counted towards income. You know, any refund that you got on your tax return, that's
Okay.
just
I
part of your
didn't think
assets.
so. I was just, asking because I'm like, well, it's just the money you owe the IRS. So it's like I already paid I overpaid them. So it's, I just wanted to ask because I know, a lot of people who may not earn so much during the year, but have a lot of dependents, have a lot of children that may fall into this AMI, probably could have received large returns, especially, when they gave different stimuluses. So I just thought, that'd be a good question to ask.
No,
Thank
that's
you, guys.
great. That's a great point. Yeah, we're getting into tax season. And so, a lot of times that is a good time for, for that portion of your refund to go towards savings, towards your home purchase. And so, yeah, that's a good strategy.
Thank you.
I had a question, and I wanted to piggyback off of what she said. So as far as like the savings, like if you don't have savings now, do the lenders give like a timeline to say, okay, well, you need this amount saved before closing? Like, is that a thing, or do we have to have a certain amount already saved?
So that's a good question. This is Tanya from Virginia Credit Union.
Okay.
Because the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust requires you to have a pre-approval in order to submit and be a part of the applicant pool, you have to have the money at time of application, or underwriting is not going to approve or conditionally approve the loan based on future possibilities.
Right, but we won't know how much we need saved until
A lender can give
Oh.
you an estimate.
Oh, okay.
Also, Nicole, keep in
Uh-huh.
mind that some, excuse me, some organizations like Southside require, if I'm not mistaken, a minimum of either $2,000 or $3,000 saved. Housing Opportunities Made Equal, I believe, has, don't quote me, but I believe that they have, and Sophie, maybe you can speak to this, a minimum requirement, maybe, but I know Southside Development Center, some of that minimum requirement is also connected to the down payment assistance programs.
Yeah.
If you're utilizing that.
Right. So if we don't have much saved, can we use the down, like if we get we apply and we get, in the applicant pool, will we be able to use some down payment assistance as the savings? Is that what you're saying?
I'm
Or
saying,
that's
oh, go
something
ahead,
different?
Sophie.
Yeah, so I mean, as part of our process, one of the steps is to get pre-approved with a lender. And so a lender is going to need to see that you have some savings in your assets in order to qualify for mortgage pre-approval. And now separately, these down payment assistance programs like Housing Opportunities Made Equal and Southside Community Development, they also have some savings requirements. So you're gonna probably need to have a little bit saved up. I mean, I used to work at Housing Opportunities Made Equal, and so the figure was somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 typically. And most importantly, you want to have enough saved up to cover home inspection fees, an appraisal fee for your house, and the earnest money deposit. And some programs also want to see that you have a little bit extra on top of that saved as well. And so as Candace and Shabana were mentioning, Housing Opportunities Made Equal and Southside Community Development are really great partner organizations that do the homebuyer education, and they also do individual counseling to help you get ready to towards homeownership. And so if you think you might need a little bit of time, maybe to get some savings together, maybe there's something in your credit that you need worked on, those programs are really, really great places to start. And so getting set up with a counselor at Housing Opportunities Made Equal or Southside Community Development, they are going to take a look at all of your financial information and point you on a path to what you might need to work on to get ready for homeownership and qualify for a mortgage.
Okay. And you have to be approved for 150K as far as like the pre-qualification at the minimum.
That's correct, right? We, to be approved for our program, we need to see that you have gotten a pre-approval letter from one of the lenders on our website. That's for at least 150,000 and also a conventional loan product.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And so someone mentioned, is there an age limit to be in the program? Specifically, can a person near retirement qualify? We do have, as a matter of fact, we have someone that just purchased that is a retired person. So no, there is not an age limit or age restriction. I will say though, especially when we're talking about the mortgage piece, we want to make sure that people understand what they're signing up for as well. However, there is no age requirement other than the legal age, as Mary mentioned. Yeah, I believe we have just a couple more slides, Shabana, and a couple of questions.
Yes. Another thing that came up during the questions was folks had asked earlier about the buyer, kind of if there's more than one buyer interested in a home. And so we do have a buyer prioritization policy that you can find on our website. I can also share the link in the chat, but that is what we use to guide us if and when, let's say there's a few folks interested in the same home within the applicant pool. So just wanted to share that for folks as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Shabana. I will say that because of the new projects that we have, there's so many coming up that is going to be revamped to work a little bit more efficiently, but that does serve as a guideline, as Shabana mentioned. And we do not, it's not the Hunger Games, so you can't offer more money. We're less concerned about that and more concerned about making sure that we're giving people an opportunity that wouldn't have the opportunity otherwise. Okay, so in terms of how it is on the open market, offering more money, for us, the price is the price. That doesn't change. Okay. Last one for right now, are the properties in HOA areas? Some are, i.e. Henrico, if I'm not mistaken, requires any homes in a subdivision to be attached to an HOA. So there is that. That is out of our control. Okay. And I believe we have some resources there, if I'm not mistaken, on that last slide, Shabana, and then
Did it, do you want to go over the recap, or I can do it?
please, thank you. I missed
Okay.
that.
I just want to recap this because we went over a lot tonight. I just want to kind of go over your rights and responsibilities as a Maggie Walker homeowner. So first and foremost, you must be an owner occupant. That means that you must reside in the home full time. You cannot sublease or Airbnb the property. And then resale, it's different than on the traditional market. Your home will have an increase in value based on the increase in area median income. So not the market. And your Maggie Walker home cannot resell for the full market value. And your home must also be sold to another income qualified buyer. Maintenance and repairs. As a homeowner, you are responsible for the maintenance of the home and the land, just like any other homeowner. So this is true for all home repairs. For remodeling, you are allowed to take on home improvements, but you must have board approval for anything requiring a building permit from your locality. And then lastly, your land lease fees. You are responsible for paying $100 annually in exchange for use of the leased land. And we go over all of these and additional rules and stipulations in a meeting with the pro bono attorney as part of the closing process. So this will be reviewed multiple times throughout the closing process, but we want to put those expectations up there first and foremost. So I'll pass this over to, or I'll just talk about this really quickly. If you are not in a place where your credit score is going to be high enough to be approved through a lender, we have a partnership with the Commonwealth Catholic Charities Credit Counseling Program, and I believe someone put it in the chat already, so thank you for that. You can email help@cccofva.org, and they help with housing resources as well as credit counseling and a variety of things. And then we also have the housing resource line, which is a hotline you can call for a variety of housing related things, more urgent questions if you're facing eviction or have a landlord issue, as well as just hearing about other housing opportunities in the area. And that is the housing resource line. Their phone number is right there. And thank you. We'll stay on for the last 5 minutes and answer any other questions.
I do want to mention something before we go. And if you are looking to purchase, there was a question in the chat about how long does it take? I said 45 to 60 days. That is contingent upon a whole lot of factors, but that is typically the window. And what I wanted to mention was, if you're looking to purchase a home, do not wait until the last minute of your lease if you're renting. Not a good idea, right? Because anything can happen and we can't control what happens, whether we're building a new home for you or for the program, or if someone is reselling the property. So you definitely want to not wait until the last minute, get in that applicant pool, even if you're just interested, so that when you're ready, you're already ready to go in the applicant pool. So please be mindful of that. And that is not just for us, but any affordable housing program. There's so many things that have to happen on the back end. So if your lease is ending, take that into consideration, even if you're 3 months out of that, okay?
Have you
So
had any people that, since you brought up the leases, and say they just started their new lease in February, right? And then they apply for the program and got all their paperwork in, got all the other programs involved with the grants and everything that needs to be done, and they can purchase the house. So what happens with the old lease that they're still in? What happens then?
That's on them. If
Right.
they can afford to drop their lease, I mean, none of that has anything to do with us.
Okay.
My reason for saying that is because personally, I don't want to see anybody in a houseless situation or in a situation where they're balancing two responsibilities, right? Because typically when you're breaking a lease, if you're not, at least maybe they'll work with you for a month, maybe 2 months. But if you're, at least 6 months, 7 months, 8 months out, they typically require you to pay the rest of that debt. So that's why it's important to mention, hey, you want to, a lot of times people think they're going to move from one thing right into another, and it never works that way. So we want to manage expectations there. But to your point, if somebody can afford to break their lease or they're given that opportunity, that's fine. It's just there's so many factors and moving parts on this end. We're not responsible for a double lease or another responsibility that may that the ends were not tied up before getting into this.
Right. Have you ever had anyone who they're paying their mortgage every month, but maybe I don't know, I wouldn't do this, but I'm just wondering, just curious. Have there been people who've lost their home in the program because of some policy that they didn't follow through with? Like, because I don't know all the policies, but say for instance, like if the roof needed to be fixed and they had money for contingencies for emergencies, but they didn't have all the money to pay for the roof, and so now they're going to make these payments and it's not paid for yet, which is part of the policy. Would a person like lose their home?
So to date, no, we have not had that situation. The biggest thing is not violating the ground lease. And right now I'm referencing living somewhere else, renting, Airbnb. All of those things are grounds for termination. So I know you're referencing maintenance. Typically people want to live well. So we haven't had any issues where people were not maintaining the home. If there is an issue, while it's not our responsibility, we do want to know, because there may be resources or we may know of an organization that can help.
Right.
But that is still the homeowner's responsibility. But for the most part, violations of any sort, specifically when it comes to breaking that ground lease with the issues that I just told you, those are grounds for dismissal from the program.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know, because it seems like the ground lease is quite reasonable. So that shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you. You're welcome. Well, I want to honor everybody's time. It is 7:30. This presentation will go out to you. So if you have any other questions, just let us know via email. But like I said, you will get this presentation. Okay, I'm sorry. I just got a final question that I'll cover about income requirements changing. So income requirements will not change because of new developments per se. Income requirements may change because of the HUD standards. So we don't change those. Those may change. And if they do, it would be in the spring, and we will update that chart that we showed you with the area median income. But changes in the income are not contingent upon the developments. They're contingent upon what HUD sets for. Okay. Well, you all have our information. You're most welcome. Reach out to us if you have any questions. Feel free to review this again when you get it in your email. And if you want to look at any of the other sessions, same information for the most part, but there may be questions that we didn't cover here on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much and have a wonderful night.